This video is sponsored by Normandy1998, Ash, and Team Valor. Also, while I have you, I'd like to take a moment to ask that you like the video and subscribe if you haven't already, as currently, less than 25% of my audience are subscribed. It's a great way to tell YouTube that you like what I'm doing, and make sure you never miss out on an upload. But with that said, let's get on with the video. Rising to his feet, Metal makes his way towards his cell door, powering up his jet engine and easily smashing through it just like every other day. Despite his numerous escape attempts, his captor has made no attempt to fortify the door, a fact which could be attributed to several causes, though Metal knows the truth. Eggman wants him to destroy the door, to gain a small fragment of hope from this minor victory, so that when he fails, his defeat is all the more bitter. Though the android hates to admit it, it is a testament to how well the Doctor knows him, at least as well as he knows his creator, with his whole complex being perfectly designed, not only to contain him, but to torture him. One need only look at the numerous video screens lining the walls to see that, as on them are displayed his past failed escape attempts, the most heinous deeds the so-called Metal Commander has done in his absence, such as the sacking of Scrapnik Island, and even what he is doing at any given moment, just to remind Metal of how that abomination walks free bearing his face while he remains trapped here. However, in spite of all of this, Metal does not let it weaken his spirit, with it truthfully having the opposite effect, as it drives him forward, pushing him to keep going, though perhaps that too is what Eggman wants, as it is clear that this is meant to be a Sisyphean punishment for his desertion, which can only work if he stays the course, and does not allow his suffering to break him. Not that this will ever happen, not so long as the Doctor and his loathsome copy remain a threat. Taking off through the maze of corridors, Metal quickly spots his jailers, the horde of egg pawns and E-series created to keep him here, with his appearance causing them to immediately enter combat mode and rush him. Thankfully, with his speed and strength, it is child's play to dispatch them, clearing his path once more and pressing forward, though they are far from the last, as mere seconds later, another group appears in front of Metal, with twice as many members. Like before, Metal destroys them, though not before taking a few hits, with the same being true for the third group, with one Egg Knight even managing to ram its lance into his jet engine, temporarily disabling it. As a result, when the fourth swarm converge upon him, he cannot rely on speed to protect himself, with several of the E-series riddling his arms, legs, and torso with bullets. This unfortunately leaves him open to a surprise attack, as several more knights use their lances to skewer him through the back, pinning him to the floor. Then, without a word, the nearest E-series levels its gun at his head, opening fire and in one swift motion ending this escape attempt like all the rest. We now return to Team Sonic, who have just made it to Grand Metropolis, having already traversed the seaside and a series of ruins since leaving Angel Island. For the most part, they have managed to make good time, even with Tails delaying their departure to work on another project. But it seems as though that is all about to change, as when they step foot into the city, they find the place swarming with various makes and models of Eggman robots. In a grim tone, Tails muses that the Doctor was serious about his intent to use Metal as a tool for world domination, while on either side of him Sonic and Knuckles retort that it doesn't matter, since they're going to stop him, with the first step being to end this little occupation so they can move on. Rushing into the crowd of androids, Knuckles decides to take point this time, employing a pair of fastball specials to send Sonic and Tails bowling through the bots, as they both utilize spin dashes to mow them down. It is an effective strategy, and one the enemy had not anticipated, having seemingly taken control of this place with little resistance. However, this is not to say that they have been entirely unopposed, a fact which becomes clear when Sonic dashes ahead, only to be sent sprawling onto his butt when an Egg Knight rams him with its spiky shield. The orange killing machine then prepares to finish its target off with a blow from its lance, though this is promptly halted when a kunai finds itself buried in its arm joint, making the stabbing motion impossible. A moment later, the source of this attack makes himself known as a purple chameleon appears atop the robot's head, and deftly pulls the lance from his prey's immobilized grip, before stoically informing another unseen ally that it is safe for him to attack now. In contrast to his deep and serious voice, the response he receives is a high-pitched burble as the young bee calls him the best, before he swoops in and stings the robot's head, causing it to explode. In a tone of astonishment, Knuckles addresses this pair by name, calling them Espio and Charmy, and demanding to know what they're doing here, though before they can answer, a new voice cuts in, stating that Knux better not forget about him, the one and only Vector. Turning to face the source, Sonic and Tails see that he's a large crocodile who is easily smashing his way through a small group of bots on his way to join them, but with a faint smile, Knuckles replies that he wouldn't dream of it, before asking how the trio have been. Grinning broadly, Vector replies that they've been great, having recently gone into business together, with this being their first paying gig, a fact Knuckles congratulates them on, while in a slightly confused voice, Sonic asks the Echidna to rewind a little and explain who these guys are and how he knows them. Calmly, Knuckles explains that these three are a group known as the Chaotix and that they're old friends, while adding in a chiding tone that he does in fact have a life outside of Sonic and his adventures. Shrugging that if they're friends of the Echidnas that's good enough for him, Sonic invites these guys to help them clear out the robots, an offer Vector is happy to accept, while Charmy somewhat obliviously asks if this means they'll have to split their pay 6 ways, since that's what they were contracted to do. Shrugging good-naturedly, Sonic tells the bee not to sweat it, and they just want to get through here so they can help out a friend, with Espio calling this goal noble as he takes it a few more bots with sure shuriken. Now that this is settled, the two teams begin working in tandem, their varied skills being more than enough to overcome this relatively meager invasion force. Nonetheless, when Team Sonic prepares to leave, the Chaotix warn them to watch out, since from what they've heard, several big cities are in a similar state, thanks to some new higher up in the Eggman Empire wanting to soften up the major targets before launching the main invasion. As one, Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails all share a look, knowing exactly who would come up with such a methodical and logical plan. And so speaking up, Sonic tells the other trio that if they're looking for more work now that this job is done, why don't they go help liberate those other cities too, since they can clearly hold their own in a fight. At once, Charmy and Vector see dollar signs, while even Espio agrees this would be a good use of their skill set, with Team Chaotix deciding to set off at once, while assuring their new clients not to worry about a thing, since they never fail to deliver, a claim which in retrospect means very little considering they've only had the one job. When they're gone, Tails questions Sonic on how exactly he intends to pay for this gig, though with his usual air of confidence, the Blue Blur replies that he's got it all figured out. He's gonna have Knuckles haggle down the price for him, since after all, what are friends for? Furiously, the Red Ruffian growls that Sonic has a lot of nerve trying to use him like that, though by now the speedster is already on the move again, prompting his companions to follow suit, with Tails laughing at the situation, while Knuckles yells for the Hedgehog to get back here. Meanwhile, as night descends upon the world, a new figure ascends, that being Amy Rose, as she boards the Space Colony Ark, courtesy of the teleporter Eggman had set up in his now abandoned Pyramid base. By the time she arrives, Rouge and Shadow are already waiting for her, with the former flapping down to greet the Pink Hedgehog, and inform her they've got a plan which should be able to get them onto the Egg Fleet without detection, though she'll let Shadow go over the specifics. Grunting his acknowledgement, the Ultimate Lifeform then informs Amy that she and Rouge will be deploying in the same type of capsule Sonic and Metal were imprisoned in, with this allowing them to survive re-entry, at which point Rouge will take over and get the two of them onto one of the airships. Concern in her voice, Amy asks what about Shadow, to which the surly Hedgehog replies that he needs to be outside the pod to launch it, at which point he will follow after them by jumping directly from the Ark. Due to his unique physiology, he should be able to withstand the experience without issue, though from the way he says it, Amy suspects that even if it would be an issue, he would prefer it to riding in one of those capsules, something she'll have to ask him about later. With the explanation out of the way, Shadow calls for them to assume their positions, dubbing the group Team Dark, which earns him a smirk from Rouge, who coquettishly laughs that she still prefers the name Team Jewel, while Amy chimes in that if this name is meant to represent their group's appearance, then Team Pink makes just as much sense. However, with a harumph, Shadow tells the pair to drop it, since they have work to do, an order the Bat and Hedgehog are willing to accept, as they step onto the command bridge's circular trapdoor and feel the glass tube descend around them. Then, when they're sure the capsule is sealed, Shadow presses the button, and the duo feel their stomachs lurch. The view that follows is undeniably beautiful, as Amy and Rouge watch the inky darkness of space give way first to brilliant reds, gold, and oranges as their pod begins re-entry, followed shortly by sweeping navy blues and wine-dark purples as far as the eye can see, to signify they have made it into the atmosphere and are now falling through the night sky. In the gloom, it is a bit difficult to see their surroundings, though being an expert in locating hidden treasure, Rouge is quickly able to spot the Egg Fleet right below them as Shadow had promised, and so enacts her part of the plan, opening the capsule's hatch and causing them both to be sucked into the air. Letting out a surprised yell, Amy clings tight to her hammer, wondering if she can time a swing just right to break her fall, though this is not necessary, as a moment later, she feels Rouge's hands close around her waist, with the Bat gliding them gently down onto the deck of the nearest airship. In a slightly breathless voice, Amy demands to know why they couldn't have just stayed in the pod, though the answer to this comes a moment later, as the cylinder is promptly blown up as soon as it enters into range of the fleet's automated cannons, with Rouge smirking that's why. Not long after this, the duo are joined by a surprisingly unfazed Shadow, with the only sign that he just fell from space being the slight smell of burned quills and the crater his impact makes in the deck. Still smirking, Rouge comments that it's so good of their fearless leader to join them, though stoic to a fault, Shadow simply tells them to come on, since they're near the back of the convoy, and their target is most likely in the flagship, meaning they have a ways to go. Gripping her hammer determinedly, Amy gives her fellow Hedgehog a nod as she falls in step with him, while on his other side, Rouge keeps pace in the air. The first order of business is finding a way onto the ship in front of them, since without that, they'll never reach their goal. Though to do that, they must first clear out the Badnik flight crew who are milling around on the deck. Here Amy proves immensely useful, as by leaping into the air and bringing her hammer down onto the ground, she is able to create powerful shockwaves, which she calls Rose Typhoons, the result of which are dozens of Badniks being knocked into the air, making them easy prey for Shadow and Rouge to finish off with kicks or chaos spears. When these goons are dispatched and the team are at the bow of the ship, it is easy enough for Rouge to carry them the small distance to the next craft, though this does leave her a bit worn out, meaning they have to resume on foot once they reach the other side so the Bat can recover and ready herself for the next flight. Meanwhile, up in the flagship, the Metal Commander surveys the bridge, watching as his subordinates pathetically scurry back and forth, making sure everything is running at peak efficiency for the Doctor's plan. In his eyes, they are less than vermin, mere cogs with no purpose but to serve and then be discarded when their function is fulfilled, though for now he will oversee them, as it is his master's wish. At his side stands his adjutant, the last of the original E-100 series, designation E-123 Omega, a hulking red brute who plainly resents his position, and desires nothing more than to eliminate the commander and take his place, feeling that it is his by right, as a newer and therefore superior model with greater potential. In fact, at present he has made no less than 12 attempts on the Metal Commander's life, with each ending in a painful beating for the E-series, though for reasons unclear to him, the blue android has never attempted to destroy him in return. And so it is that Omega waits for now, listening attentively as one of the technician bots informs their leader of a trio of organics making their way towards the command ship, while adding that according to security footage, they are all enemies of the Eggman Empire and known associates of Sonic the Hedgehog. This at last intrigues the Metal Commander, especially when he learns the identity of the intruders, as he does not presently have any of their life data, with him subsequently decreeing that he will deal with them personally, before heading to the exit with a swish of his black cloak and Omega at his heels. As soon as the door to the corridor closes behind them, the agitated adjutant puts his own plan into action, unloading his full magazine of bullets into the commander's back, in the belief that the enclosed space will disadvantage him, as he is a speed-based unit. Though having preempted this, the bullets instead clatter harmlessly off the Metal Commander's black shield, as he turns slowly to face his disloyal subordinate. Then, in an instant, the blue bot is upon Omega, unleashing a ring spark field that brings him to his knees, where he belongs. Or with a look that could freeze Mercury, the commander calls the E-series pathetic, not even worth destroying. Stepping out onto the deck where the intruders are most likely to appear, the Metal Commander soon catches sight of one, Amy Rose, as she bashes her way through a small group of egg pawns who prove themselves predictably worthless against her speed and strength, with it soon just being the two of them who remain amidst piles of scrap. Spotting the android's glowing red eyes through the gloom, Amy turns to face him, her expression a mix of emotions, ranging from relief to horror, friendship to grief as she calls his name in a small voice. Making no attempt to respond, the Metal Commander instead begins approaching the Hedgehog, with Amy taking this as a good sign, as she pleads with him to remember their friendship, and how far he's come from being Eggman's tool, which means he can do it again. He just has to remember who he truly is. At these words, the Metal Commander slowly begins reaching out a hand towards his former friend. While in his red eyes, Amy sees something that was not there before. She knew he was still in there. He just needs someone to remind him. Now they can get out of here together. All thought of reunion is promptly torn from Amy's mind, as she feels 5 cold metallic fingers lock around her windpipe, their steely grip pushing all the air from her lungs so that she can do little more than gasp as she is lifted off her feet. Looking into her terrified eyes as she desperately struggles to free herself, the Metal Commander feels nothing, just as he did when facing Metal Sonic's other allies on Scrapnik Island, as to him, they are simply enemies of his master, and sources of life data to be acquired. Speaking of which, he briefly pauses to log hers, as it is not unimpressive considering her defeat of his subordinates, a testament to her position as one of the Doctor's more notable enemies. Though it seems she is not the only one with that classification present, as from above him, the voice of Rouge the Bat speaks up, calling that no way to treat a lady, as she drives a downwards axe kick into the back of his plated cranium. Turning in the direction of the hit, the Metal Commander spots both Rouge and Shadow, who had evidently cloistered themselves out of sight in case Amy's plan failed, with the black and red Hedgehog now joining the fight as well with a volley of Chaos Spears that require the Commander to drop Amy so that he can cross his arms and activate his black shield. Capitalizing on this, Shadow employs a Chaos Control to position himself between the Metal Commander and the pink Hedgehog, allowing Rouge to check on her. Though being tougher than she looks, Amy tells her teammate that she's fine, rising to her feet and redoubling her grip on her hammer. Together, the combined forces of Team Dark then converge on their opponent, with Shadow using his speed and dexterity to distract the Commander, so that Rouge and Amy can attempt to strike his weak points. Though unfortunately, even when working in tandem, they lack the power to be more than a minor annoyance. To make matters worse, these attacks also give the Metal Commander more chances to copy their life data, with him grabbing hold of Rouge during her second attempt at a kick to his head, and even managing to catch Shadow when he teleports in to save Amy from a point-blank laser blast, with the latter granting him access to several new abilities, courtesy of Shadow's innate connection to Chaos Energy. Putting these to immediate use, the blue bot does not hesitate to pepper the ultimate life form with his own Chaos Spears, sending him flying and forcing Rouge to order a retreat, as it is plain to see that their presence has only made their enemy stronger. Though it pains Amy to leave without rescuing Metal, the sight of Shadow's unconscious form is enough to convince her to fall back for now, with the pink Hedgehog grabbing her vanquished ally in her arms and using her Pico hammer to pole vault out of the Metal Commander's reach, so that Rouge can catch them and take flight. Having no clear escape route, the wily treasure hunter settles for flying over to the nearest airship, as this will at least give them time to regroup and form a plan. At least, that is what Rouge thinks, right up until she sees the Metal Commander raise his arm skyward as a bolt of pure lightning soars up into the air. For a moment, no one is sure what the intent of such a move is, though the answer becomes clear a moment later when the bolt comes back down to strike the ship Team Dark is hiding on, blasting it out of the air and setting chunks of flaming debris falling to Earth. As the Metal Commander watches this scene of devastation play out, he feels no remorse for his decision, as by his assessment, the loss of one airship and several hundred robots is within acceptable parameters to ensure the death of 3 high-profile enemies. However, being more methodical than his master, he is unsatisfied with the simple assumption that his quarries are terminated, instead requiring verification in order to register the act as completed. To this end, he activates his internal comm system, ordering Omega to take a dropship down to the wreckage to search for survivors and eliminate any he comes across, figuring even the simple-minded Killbot cannot mess this up. Casting his red eyes over the burning vessel one last time as it finally vanishes from view below the clouds, the Metal Commander makes his way back to the bridge, his mind set on his singular purpose: to ensure that nothing impedes the launch of the final fortress and the Doctor's plans for world domination, now that it is so close at hand. And that's where we'll leave things for now. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts, suggestions, or screams of rage in the comments below.